Why do recessions happen again and again? The answer is simple. Business cycles are the destiny of capitalism. Since 1945, the United States has experienced 13 recessions. Including the 2020 COVID shock, that's roughly once every 6 years on average. Why is it so hard to avoid? This slide explains everything. The economy cycles through 4 phases. During expansion, investment and consumption increase, reaching a peak. Businesses overinvest, and production capacity exceeds demand. During contraction, oversupply leads to inventory buildup. Companies cut production and reduce employment. Unemployment rises, and consumption falls. From the trough, expansion begins again. Inventories adjust, demand recovers, and a new growth cycle starts. Central banks then gradually raise interest rates by several percentage points to cool demand and control inflation. This is the pattern shown by 80 years of economic history. However, the causes involve multiple factors combining demand, supply, and financial elements. The NBER officially determines peaks and troughs, confirmed by data. And this is understandable. The numbers tell the story. History reveals the pattern. Now you can understand why recessions are so hard to avoid. Today, let me show you this mechanism. Recessions aren't a disease. They're an adjustment phase after overheating. However, the social costs, unemployment, bankruptcies, are substantial. During expansion, businesses become optimistic. Believing demand will continue growing, they accelerate capital investment. In boom phases, growth can reach double digits. But demand forecasts miss the mark. Supply exceeds demand, and inventories pile up. The inventory-to-sales ratio surges from normal levels around 1.3 to nearly 1.5 or 1.6 during recessions. Companies cut production. Industrial production declines, though the magnitude varies greatly depending on the nature of the shock. Then employment adjustments begin. Unemployment rates tend to rise during recessions. The increase varies significantly by episode, but in severe downturns, it can climb from 4% to 6% or even into the 7% range. Unemployed workers cut their spending. This is the inevitability of overheating and adjustment. Expansion creates overinvestment, and overinvestment necessitates correction. Recessions are the mechanism by which the system corrects itself. Recessions don't just happen naturally. Central banks cool demand through monetary tightening to control inflation. As a result, recession risk increases. When inflation exceeds the 2% target, central banks raise policy rates, typically in 0.25 percentage point increments, though depending on circumstances, aggressive hikes of 0.50 or 0.75 percentage points occur. Over the entire tightening cycle, the cumulative increase reaches several percentage points. For example, from 2022 to 2023, the Federal Reserve implemented a total of 5.25% in rate hikes. This dramatically increases borrowing costs. 30-year fixed mortgage rates rise. Housing demand cools, and existing home sales and new construction decline. The construction industry takes a hit, and employment falls. Corporate borrowing costs also rise. Capital investment decreases. Economic growth slows. However, recent inflation isn't just about demand overheating. Supply constraints and energy prices, supply shocks, have had major impacts. Central banks can cool demand, but supply-side problems are difficult to resolve through monetary policy alone. This is the role of central banks. The Fed operates under a dual mandate: maximum employment and price stability. Balancing inflation control with employment maintenance is central to policy management. Over the past 80 years, the pattern is clear, but the timing is uncertain. Since 1945, the United States has experienced 13 recessions. Including the 2020 COVID shock, that's roughly a 6-year cycle on average. However, expansion lengths vary widely, from as short as 18 months to as long as 128 months. The 1990s and 2010s featured expansion periods exceeding 10 years. The cycle isn't constant. Expansions can last over a decade, or downturns can arrive suddenly and sharply. Economists try to predict when recessions will come, But timing recessions is difficult. Major forecasting surveys show that consistently predicting recessions in advance is challenging. The 2008 financial crisis. Before the crisis, some analysts pointed to vulnerabilities in the housing market and financial system. However, forecasting the precise timing and scale in a way that markets could fully anticipate was difficult. This is the dilemma between predictability and unpredictability. Recessions will inevitably come, but no one knows exactly when. While business cycles are hard to avoid, monetary tightening doesn't necessarily lead to deep recessions. Under the right conditions, a soft landing, reducing growth while lowering inflation can occur. In fact, 2023 saw a solid 2.5% growth despite aggressive rate hikes. But not all recessions are the same. 2008 was exceptional. Typical recessions involve adjustments to overinvestment. But 2008 was a failure of the financial system itself. It's called a systemic crisis. Securitization of mortgages, including subprime and Alt-A loans, expanded rapidly. Through ratings and leverage, losses spread throughout the entire financial system. Lehman Brothers collapsed. Short-term funding markets, including the interbank market, seized up. Credit spreads widened sharply, and the credit crunch intensified. Unemployment surged to 10%. Housing prices fell dramatically. Household net worth lost roughly $11 trillion, with about $6 trillion from housing assets alone. This was a once-in-a-century crisis on the scale of the Great Depression. It was the manifestation of systemic risk beyond normal business cycles. Even if not on the scale of 2008, recent examples show financial stress affecting the economy through credit supply. For instance, in 2023, banking sector stress-tightened lending standards, raising concerns about real economy impacts. Financial amplification mechanisms that deepen business cycles still exist today. Recessions are capitalism's destiny. They can't be completely eliminated. Capitalism works through profit-seeking that generates growth. Companies invest and expand production capacity. This is the engine of economic growth. But demand forecasting is uncertain. Companies inevitably overinvest, and then the adjustment phase arrives. Central banks aim for price stability and maximum employment. To control inflation, they implement monetary tightening. This cools demand and raises recession risk. These factors combine to produce recessions roughly every 6 years on average. This structure is fundamentally inherent to the capitalist system. Recessions aren't a disease, they're part of the system. However, policy can aim to reduce the frequency and severity of the risk. Macroeconomic stabilization policies, monetary, fiscal, and financial regulation, aim to reduce the amplitude of economic fluctuations. They can't be completely avoided, but they can be understood and prepared for. Now, let's organize today's analysis. Here's today's summary. First, the structure of business cycles. The four-phase cycle of expansion, peak, contraction, and trough repeats roughly every 6 years on average. Since 1945, 13 recessions have occurred, but expansion lengths vary widely from as short as 18 months to as long as 128 months, making the cycle unstable. Second, the mechanism of overheating and adjustment. Accelerating capital investment during expansion creates oversupply and inventory buildup. Inventory-to-sales ratios surge from normal levels around 1.3 to nearly 1.5 or 1.6 during recessions, forcing adjustment through industrial production cuts and rising unemployment. Third, the role of central banks. To maintain the 2% inflation target, policy rates are raised gradually by a cumulative 3% to 5%. Housing demand and capital investment cool, but supply shocks are difficult to resolve through monetary policy alone. However, 2023 demonstrated the possibility of a soft landing, with solid GDP growth of 2.5% despite aggressive rate hikes. If you were in a position to make economic policy decisions, which would you prioritize, controlling inflation or maintaining employment? While recessions can't be completely eliminated, policy can aim to reduce the frequency and severity of the risk. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. This channel analyzes world events from the perspectives of economics and history. Not emotions, but facts. Not opinions, but mechanisms. deepening your economic understanding. Subscribe to the channel and join me next time as we explore economic truth together. Turn on notifications, and with each new analysis, your worldview will level up. See you next time.